What's going on, guys? This is Connor Wilson from Lacrosse All-Stars, bringing you a little video traditional Thursday. We got a great question through email. You can always hit us up, info@lacrosseallstars.com, from Neil Dupree, saying he's always strung his stick with Canadian mesh, but he decided to give the Pita pocket a shot. He was wondering what the best thing to do with the leftover leathers is. Do you cut them? Do you tape them down? Do you braid them and then tape them down? Or do you just leave them alone? So I was asked for a little input, so we figured maybe some other people would have some questions. So we'll talk a little Pita pocket technology on this wonderful Thursday. So here we go. So I just strung up a new Pita pocket. It's a beauty in an old school OG STX Proton. Great head, bringing me back to my high school days, early college. I used to use one once in a while. Great to have one back. I got the cross lace from Stringer Shack, and I got the leathers from Chris Tiernan of Throw to String. Top-notch products, both of them. And really, if you look at this, you'll notice something a little different. I actually float my sidewall so that it's totally separate from the plastic on the stick. I originally found that technique from a guy named Jay Spatafora, who was playing at Nassau Community College and went on to play at Arizona. One of his friends did it for him. I always thought it looked pretty cool. I wasn't much of a stringer back then. That was about 10 years ago. But now I feel like I can do it, and the pocket really works out well. So that's something you can definitely try. You'll find that if you anchor down the sidewalls pretty tightly, and then you attach the shooters up top, you're actually in a pretty good spot. You don't get a ton of whip. You get great hold. Ball releases very smoothly. But to get back to Neil's question, Neil was kind of curious about the bottom. What I like to do is I'm always going to try and pull the leathers down around the plastic and back up. Now what that does is when you get this part of the pocket, it allows it to sit a little lower and creates that kind of low point for the pocket. Okay, so that's why I was wrapped down, through, and then back up. And then you're pulling them through. The other advantage you get there is that if you want to have, you want to have these leathers pinched to the middle a little bit, then you can bring the excess leather on the outside of them. If you wanted this to be wider in the bottom, say you're running a regular diamonded traditional, you can put the extra leather through there, and that'll kind of increase that little gap there. And then you can run the other ones right here, and that'll keep the leather spaced at the bottom. So that's another advantage of using them here. I don't like to cut I'll probably cut this one a little bit, maybe down to there. But I do like a little room to play. I find that, as long as you tie them up in the front, you're usually doing pretty well. I'm not a big fan of braiding it. I used to have a stick like that when I was a kid. It's super old school. There's nothing wrong with it, but for me, I like to have the leathers up, out of the way. My hand's never gonna, even if I put my hand on the plastic, it's not gonna hit the leathers. So I feel that this is the best way to get it done. You got two different knots here. This one will slip out a little bit. This is you go over and under, and then under and over. And this one is over, 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 over. And that's more of a sailor's knot, which will lock it in for you. So I'd recommend doing this top one as opposed to the bottom one. So if your knot looks like this, you did it wrong. If your knot looks like this, where it's almost like a pretzel, see how it's nice and even? That means you did it right. So that, for me, is the optimal way to tie off a Pita pocket. We'll be back more with more technique in the future, but we hope that these basic tips helped you out. You also noticed that I did the triangle teardrop top string up top. I'll include a link to that at the bottom of this video so that you can figure out how to do that on any traditional head. We'll be back with more next week. If you have questions in the meantime about how to string a traditional stick, tips, technique, all that kind of stuff, let us know. Shoot us an email, info@lacrosseallstars.com. We'll try to get you covered. Have a great day. Keep stringing.